makes us all feel good if the project does really well and has a great following and has a wonderful message. But really, because in the beginning years, Jim, as young actors, we can get distracted by all of the unnecessary nonsense. I remember doing Flash Gordon in 1979, and I walked on the set and I thought, oh my God, here's all these huge actors, right, that I'm big fans of, and Dino De Laurentiis, the producer, these huge sets that Dianello Donati did. Dianello Donati is the guy who did all the Fellini movies, right? And I'm thinking, oh God, do I belong here? This is overwhelming. Well, that's not my job. Okay, that's wrong thinking. My job is and we could substitute my job. You just say your job, whatever industry you're in. Is when we show up for work, again, on time means early. And again, I'm being redundant, but it's important. Be as prepared. I want to say better prepared than anybody else. And say to yourself, ask the question, what is expected of me at this very moment? If you're sitting there thinking about all the great people you're working with, and all these, and that you maybe you don't belong here because it's too much, that's wrong. So I had to learn that very early. Just focus on what is expected me right now of me as a professional, and deliver it and move on to the next one. But don't sit there and go, oh, how did I do? How did I do it? I love film and television. You know why? What we're doing right now. Because it doesn't lie, Jim. You can't say, oh, I was feeling bad. Jim called me. We did our Zoom meeting. I had a cold. I was sick. I came. No, you know what? Get over it. Okay. Just film tells the truth. It is what it is, and it is what you see. And again, and the way you're going to be happy and pleased is not about how great you did or how good you were, but hey, I was prepared, man. I was prepared.
And Sam, this movie falls under the science fiction genre, but it does many sort of themes running through this movie. It's not just really a science fiction flick. There's a good lot of drama, suspense in terms of that.
Psychological thriller too.
Yeah. And would you see, as Sam, as an actor yourself, are you deeply invested in all genres of acting? I know people who
Of course.
relate you more to the science fiction, but do you like times where you're gritted to maybe suspense or drama or
I
one-on-one
just,
heartfelt
I,
scenes? Does it give you a buzz as well? Because people relate the name Sam Jones to sci-fi and such as that. But as a talented actor as yourself, do all genres intrigue you, dare I say?
well, of course it does. Um, um, I've been blessed. I've done over 75 films, more television, of course, but 75 films. And I'm happy to say that I've done, yes, I mean, I've done a lot of leading men, but I've also believe I've done more villains and the nemesis, the antagonist. And I love it. That's where we grow as actors. And I believe, especially independent films, I've done more independent films than I've done studio, the guideline. And it's great to do studio films, but there's more restrictions and guidelines to follow. And independent filmmaking, oh man, Jim, there's a freedom, there's a liberation, not to do whatever you want to do, because we all need to share in the director's vision, the writer and director's vision. We need to share that. And that's what they're looking for. Um, but there's a freedom. I give an example. On this one, yes. I mean, even with this movie, there was great freedom. Richard, of course, the director told me what he wanted, but he did give me a lot of freedom. There weren't you didn't have a team of writers breathing behind the back of your neck saying, okay, every word, iambic pentameter. I think they think it's Shakespeare, beat for beat, syllable for syllable, word for word. And I know when you do Shakespeare and you do certain projects, you have to do that. But and I do get in trouble sometimes, Jim, for improvisation. And I do, even to this day, I have to be careful that I stick again, that I stick to the message and the story, the vision that the director and writer want to communicate. But I just love the freshness of improvisation, and again the freedom, the freedom of doing independent films. It's wonderful.
And Sam, you mentioned being on these sort of projects as well. And I suppose many of the times when you were starting off, where you were the student and someone else was the sort of teacher in terms of a famous sort of an actor back in the day or something. But when you arrive on projects these days and you're working with young up and coming talent, young up and coming actors and actresses, do you often sort of get, if they come to you and ask you to for advice or share experience, are you more than happy to give them your naysay of what the industry's been like for you and tips and pointers and maybe to
Well,
relive maybe what maybe you experienced in your early days growing up in the business where people maybe pulled you aside and had a quiet word in your ear and said, this is if you go do this and do you'll go places and sort of stuff like that.
well, yeah. I mean, on Flash Gordon, the people that mentored me was Max von Sydow and Brian Blessed. Even though Timothy Dalton was my age, maybe a year or two older, I don't think he knew it, but I was watching him and studying him, and I sort of took his advice, even though he made, he probably wasn't giving it to me, but I watch a lot of actors. But as I got older, if the younger actors asked me, I would tell them, and a lot of times I would use humor. For instance, I did a movie 3 years ago called The Silent Natural. And it was a true story about the first deaf Major League Baseball player in America, William Hoy. And we used for the lead actor a real deaf actor. And so I wanted to learn a little bit of sign language. I played the father, and I played his father, and the young man, the actor, not his character, but at the end of each scene, the actor, and he would taught me, this is good, this is bad, this is good, right? So at the end of each scene, he would come up to me and he would sign, and he'd move his lips, and he would say, basically, how did I do? And I would say, bad. Okay, bad. Okay. And he started laughing, but he was really good. So you kind of want to use humor. And again, I remember my first TV series, Code Red. Oh God, who was the William Smith? William Smith goes way back. He was a bodybuilder, actor. He was really incredible character. And he saw it was my first TV series, the pilot, and I was all, jumping around, very nervous. And he looked at me, and not in front of everybody. He said, "Come here." He said, "Sam, you're doing great." He said, "Just take your time and just talk like you and I are talking right now. Act like the camera's not even there. Just be true to yourself." And boom. And so he did calm me down. But yeah, that's basically what the way we're talking right now. And we need to watch really good actors. I mentioned Denzel Washington, Mel Gibson. List goes. Robert Downey Jr. I mean, come on, the list is unbelievable. But I study people like Denzel, who's my age, and he just, he to me, he brings you into that scene. He transmits you, you're there, you're part of there. You're not watching acting going on. You're watching him become the character. And that's really what we're sort of hired to do is make it real, make it true to ourselves. But if you catch anybody acting, then they probably need to make some better choices.
It's amazing there you mentioned about the sort of techniques and last month we were doing a series called Classic Series. We were looking back at the Kojak series and we were talking about the great Telly Savalas and the guest who was talking about Telly was said Telly didn't learn his lines, he read them from an improv. He had people coming down the lake and sort of stuff like that, and he could just like that go into stone with a moment's notice or something like that, and
Wow.
off you went there. So throughout the different generations and different actors, they all had their different sort of techniques or loopholes that sort of work for them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I suppose, Sam, in terms of Roswell Delirium, when we see this 21st century, we see all these sort of green screen and these all sorts of special effects and what the movie industry is sort of moving towards. And maybe there's still an awful lot of stunts being done to this day, but back in the 80s and 90s, it was all stunts driven as well. Do you think maybe that green screen, while it's positive for the industry as well, that it's just some sort of setbacks to it as well in terms of I know it propels us to what we think is unbelievable, but dare I say the stunts business, there was a sense of credibility to it as well.
Yeah, no, I think it's overdone. I think it's really overdone. I mean, let's be, let's young filmmakers ask me for advice, and I tell them, I said, look, yes, I said, here's the problem I see. You as a young filmmaker, I watch these movies all the time, and yes, your job is to tell your story, have people you hire are going to share your vision, and you've got to put your signature on it. But don't make it so creative for creative's sake, so different just because you want to be different that you lose the common sense, practical thinking. As we look at all these special effects and CG and the green screen, okay, wait a minute. No, that's not real. Okay. I got it with Marvel and DC. I got it. Okay. He could jump high, he could fly, he has superhuman strength. Okay, fine. But all this other stuff, I watch a lot of foreign films too, the Asian films and the martial art films. I'm a martial artist myself, but people don't fly. I mean, people don't fly from building to building, in real life, unless you're doing a Marvel or DC film. Okay. But if it's character driven, which every script should be, and obviously you got to have the action. I tell you, Jim, I am so selective right now. I'm very impatient. They used to have this other guideline in the movies. Maybe they still have it. I don't care. I don't go by it. It does is okay, you got 10 minutes to get the audience's attention. Well, with me, no, you don't. Okay, I'm sorry. If you don't grab my attention within a few seconds, I'm gone. Next on Netflix. You got to grab my attention. I'll give you a great example. Now I know Richard. I know he grabbed the he in Roswell Delirium. Obviously, even the title grabs your attention. Grab their attention. Have all these, maintain it through the whole story. Have these twists and turns. We go, oh my God! Try to get people on the edge of their seat, and you better close it out. You better knock a grand slam. You better get that winning goal. You know, at the very end. But yeah, another good example of grabbing your attention from the very beginning. Do you remember Sandra Bullock in Bird Box? Was it Bird Box? I think it was Bird Box.
Bird Box, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
and you
yes.
you don't really all you see is I think the river, and you hear the dialogue. You hear this woman talking to, it sounds like her kids, and the urgency. Okay, I'm at the edge of my seat. Wow, she's sharing something with them. They're about to die. Something huge is about to take place. So that's what you call grabbing your attention immediately. I believe in grabbing and I understand you got to develop characters, but wait a minute. Don't try to develop the characters so much in the beginning where I mean, I'll sit there and every time I do this, Jim, every time I do this, okay, 5 minutes have gone by. Okay, it's kind of interesting, but it's boring. And I hear this voice say, well, give it another 5 minutes. And every time I say, give it another 5 minutes, and then I add another five, and I'm into it for 25, 30 minutes, and it is boring, and it ends up being boring. Okay. So this is my sort of indicator. I know it's not how a lot of people should think, but I'm saying grab their attention right now, instantaneously, and carry that through to the
And
very.
yeah, and Sam, before I bring you back to sort of close on Roswell Delirium that is coming our way on January the 10th, I know you visited the Emerald Isle on many occasion and got to sample the Irish lifestyle, got to sample the Irish cuisine and the hospitality.
Oh,
And
yeah.
is it a place when you look at your calendar each year or every few years and you look at destinations where you try to think, well, maybe a trip or a vacation is on the cards? Does Ireland come into your entire terms of one of those top 5 or top 10 destinations where you think, yeah, this might be on, I might want to revisit again here. I miss this place.
Yeah, well, sure. I mean, look, I'm fortunate and blessed. Like I said, I not only do I get to travel to Ireland, Northern Ireland, England, Scotland, other parts of, and then Europe as well. I mean, it's a paid vacation. They're flying me out there to do a Comic Con, to do a movie, to do an event, and obviously at the same time, I just love it. I mean, I took one of my sons is 25, and I took him to Ireland, to Dublin and Belfast. I wanted to take him to the brewery,
Okay. Guinness
yeah,
Brewery, yeah.
the Guinness Brewery. And he's 18. He had never touched alcohol. I said, so we went there. He said, Dad, I think I'd like to try a Guinness. So, okay, it's kind of cool to be the dad and be with your son. And, he's never touched alcohol because he was a top athlete, and it never appealed to him. So he tastes the Guinness. Okay. I said, how was it? How was it? Because it is my favorite beer. And he said, Dad, it's the worst thing I've ever tasted in my life. I said, okay, well, wait a minute. Okay, we'll try the ale. What do you call it? The lager, the blonde.
Yeah, the cider.
Cider. Okay. I said, I tried this other one. It's not dark. And I said, what do you think of that? He said, Dad, it's the second worst thing I've ever had in my life. So beer was not his thing, especially Guinness. So he likes to drink a little red wine every now and then. But and I know I'm preaching to the choir when I talk to you and all the Irish, but the Irish are so serious about their Guinness. I had a couple Irish come out here from Belfast and from Dublin. I took them to a really cool restaurant that had Guinness on tap. And so I went to order for them. I said, bring all my buddies a Guinness on tap. And they said, Sam, sorry, we can't drink the American Guinness on tap. I said, are you serious? He goes, yeah, Sam, you don't do. And he said, please don't take this personal, but we're very serious about our Guinness in Ireland. I said, well, what do you do? What do we not do here that you do in Ireland? He said, you don't bleed the lines. You may bleed them once a month or twice a month. We have quality control in Ireland and in Northern Ireland, quality control, where they come in, once or twice a week, and they bleed the lines. I went, okay, it's great. So anyway, that was very, very shocking, but I get it. I get it.
And I suppose Sam Jones, Roswell Delirium, January the 10th is just around the corner. It's a nice way to kickstart off the new year. What advice would you give to all our audience and our listeners that is looking to start the new year with a nice sort of movie to get into rhythm for a prosperous 2025? And what can they expect to see when they walk into the cinema screens and watch Roswell Delirium and see your own character, Mr. Leonard?
Yeah, well, Mr. Leonard, he's a hard piece to figure out. But no, uh, the acting again, it all